Hi, so this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to do some different typefaces. So with serif, that is where you're going to have this kind of little line on the end of everything, and that's a really good, easy way of kind of just jazzing up a normal kind of handwriting. It might be good for some of you with your graphics projects that are doing magazine or something maybe even a little bit more formal. Then it might work for that, but probably not for something where you would need a really bold and informal, maybe sporty kind of project. But as you can see, I've just blended them in slightly. So draw that line. You might want it to look like a harsh line, or you could also try, like I'm doing here, blending it in slightly, just kind of rounding off the edges. So you can experiment with different versions of that. Depending on what you're trying to do. It will look a little bit more fun if you give it a bit of a rounder edge, but if you want something more formal and serious, then keep it very straight. And I haven't used guides at this point just because I wanted to be quick, but really you should use guides, which I'm going to show you in a moment. And so now, to show you how to draw that guide, then use a ruler or just anything with a straight edge. And do actually put some straight lines there, because that's going to make sure that you do things evenly. I'm going to be showing you italics for this one, so I just want to draw some slanted parallel lines at a slight diagonal. You could go as diagonal as you like with it, and then you need to draw in that direction of that diagonal. I'm just going to draw another line here for my lowercase letters, just like you would do when you're learning handwriting. So see, I've just written that out first. And then also I'm going to show you how to do a kind of modern calligraphy style. So you might be lucky enough to have a calligraphy pen, but even then I would still say, this is me just drawing in my guides for the serif, which I should have done before, but it's just to show you a rough idea. But you should definitely start doing that before you, until you get more confident. But if it has to be exact, you must use ruler guides. So here I'm kind of drawing over the same letter but slightly to the left of it. I'll show you just an example with an E. So if I just write an E normally, and then I'm going to start the E slightly to the right of it this time and draw the same E, and you'll see how it gives you thicker and thinner lines. And this is one of my favourites actually, just to kind of make your writing look more fancy, even if you are just maybe doing some titles in your sketchbook or something. That's a really nice way, and it will look particularly nice with maybe magazines or something more fashion rather than sport, because I know a lot of you are doing sport and a lot of you are doing fashion-based work. So here's just an example to show you how I do that with the word italics. And of course, you can do this in pencil first and then pen over the top afterwards. But I'm just doing it straight in pen, but it's not going to be perfect, just to show you quickly. Okay, so now I'm going to be showing you cursive. Now cursive is basically joining letters together. It's just joined up handwriting pretty much. So you could keep it just straightforward like this. I haven't really been using the italics diagonal guide for this one. I've just been kind of drawing it a little bit straighter. I've also added a little bit of a curve to the edge of it, just to kind of suit that style if you want it to look quite kind of curvy and traditional. And then you could also do that calligraphy style with this as well, so try lots of different things and see what to do. Of course, when you're doing your work, you don't have to write cursive and italics and things. You could write maybe a brand or something that you're looking at for your GCSE graphics project. So here is just another example of how you could add these curved kind of slanted lines to the ends of your lettering. So you might start with something and you might then change and adjust it. So the same if you're doing a bold font, which I'll show you soon. You could just experiment with where you put things, and of course you could experiment with pencil before you go in and use pen, or you might even draw the slightly different versions of a font that you really like, that you've created, and you just want to try that one in lots and lots of different ways. So I'm going to be doing a bold font now. So that's going to be great if you're looking at sports promotion or something where you might want to give the letters some impact. It could also work for fashion and things as well, but I think it's just more suited for those of you that are going to be doing sport, maybe looking at Nike or Adidas or something like that. It's very similar to that style. So first, just guides, if I'm doing all capitals, then I don't need to draw a third line in the middle. Start by actually just drawing or just writing the word really normally, and then go around the letters, especially actually B, O, L and D are fairly simple ones to do, but things that are harder will be things like an N, which I'll show you in a moment. So I'm really just drawing around that first, and really think about how spaced apart you want your letters, because actually you might, for a bold font, actually want the letters to be really close together. So also experiment a lot with the spacing of the letters. That will make a big difference. And so here I'm just getting a pen and I'm actually going to draw in those lines curved. So I kind of gave them more sharper corners originally, but now I'm going to make them just really smooth and curved, just to see. It's a little bit more like bubble writing. Just curving those edges just to see what happens, really. Just about experimenting and just trying different things to get across what you're trying to achieve with your message. Okay, so here I'm just going to show you how to do 3D lettering. Now this is just the general concept of how this works. So if I'm just doing an eye, it really is just a cuboid. So I'm drawing two rectangles, and then I'm going to join those up like you would, and you can go and see my first video on drawing shapes and look at how to draw a cube, because that is the fundamentals of how you're actually going to do this. So if we just look at this B here, I've got I'm going off in a diagonal here, so these lines here are all going off at the same parallel angle, and they are essentially from here as well, but of course we can't see through the letter, so you only actually see the ones on the left hand side, or the bottom left, that I'm going to just draw here. So these are the ones we can actually see if there were these sort of invisible lines from that kind of light source, a little bit like how you would draw a shadow on something. So they're technically in there as well, and they technically would be here as well. And you can actually draw these lines as well, just as a different style. So if you go back to patterns and things that you've done before, you could always put patterns and different things inside here for the 3D text. And of course you've got some pencil marks to rub out after that as well. Don't forget to do that. So I'm going to show an N now, although usually actually I just draw an N normally first, and then I would draw around like I showed you with the bold font. So do it in that same way, but this is just me trying to be quicker with it. So once you've got your bold letter, then you need these parallel lines coming off of all the edges. You would also have some more, but those are not the ones that you would see. So I'm just joining these up, the ones that I would actually see. And then this is just a sort of variation on that kind of 3D font. So you could draw your original letter first in bold, and of course you can change the angle of the 3D nature, so the angle that you'd be viewing it from. And then if you just draw anything but the parallel lines on, then you've got this just a kind of different shape. It's more like a floating letter in a way, but it's just completely random and made up. You can just make up your own things however you want to, whatever you think will look cool, and obviously inspired by things that you'll see on Pinterest and things. So I'm just going to thicken those up a little bit because it wasn't looking quite bold enough, so I could thicken them up. You can of course experiment with colours and maybe shading things in to make things look more 3D. But the idea is just to really experiment with lots of different typography